What is going on, YouTube? Bryce Builds It All, your favorite AMP-IA and Part 147 instructor, back with another video. And this time I want to talk to you a little bit about AD compliance. And this is because some of my students going through an airframe inspection class have been asking me a lot of questions about it, so I figured this would be a good chance to address it on camera. Now, this video is aimed at students in a Part 147 school or an aircraft mechanic school, but if you're a pilot, if you're an owner, an operator, something like that, you might find the information helpful as well. So as always, stick around. Okay, the first thing we need to understand is what is an AD. So an AD, or an Airworthiness Directive, is issued by the FAA to address an unsafe flight condition for an aircraft. This also includes any component, part, product thereof. Okay, and they are mandatory by federal law. They are mandatory because they are codified or codified, however you want to say it, into Part 39 of the regulations. So every Airworthiness Directive is actually a law. It is an amendment to Part 39. And it actually even says that on the top of the AD. It says Amendment to Part 39. Anyways, besides the point, they are mandatory. And they are similar to safety recalls that you might get on a vehicle. But instead of getting it from Ford Motor Company or Toyota, you get it directly from the FAA or the Federal Aviation Administration. So now the issue that some of my students are struggling with when doing their airframe inspection classes is how do I write this up? How do I look at it? What is a check and what is compliance? So when doing an Airworthiness Directive check, to check for compliance of ADs versus actually complying with an AD, those are two different things. And to check the compliance of an AD, all I'm doing is going into the aircraft's records and looking at the most recent AD log, or actually thumbing back through the pages through every single AD that's ever been done and seeing if the ADs have been complied with and taking it on the word of the person who did that entry that it indeed has been complied with. That's a lot of words of just saying I'm looking at the records and seeing if the ADs have been checked, if they have been complied with. Now, you'll see all kinds of interesting things like PCW, which means previously complied with, CW, complied with by, and so on and so on. But there are some ADs that are a one-time inspection, a one-time parts replacement, a one-time whatever it may be. There are a lot of ADs that are not applicable by serial number, by part number, by model number, whatever it may be, and there are some ADs that are recurring. So an example of a recurring AD would be the Cessna seat rail AD, which is AD 2011-1009. And that AD is the seat pins have a tendency to oblong or wear out the holes in Cessna seat rails, and then the seat comes loose and it goes sliding back on takeoff. You panic, you grab a fistful of yoke, and you yank back on it, the aircraft stalls, and you crash and die. Now, it's an exaggeration, but there have been people killed because of this. So Cessna put out an AD every 100 hours or annual inspection, whichever occurs first, you must comply with the inspection of that AD. Even if you install new seat rails, you still have to check the compliance of that AD every 100 hours. It is a recurring AD. So that is one of those ones that, like I said, you can install new seat rails, but you still have to comply with it. It is still recurring. And you still have to do that inspection every time you do a 100-hour inspection or an annual inspection. Another one, and I can't think of the name of it right now, another one is an actual AD that applies to the rudder hinges on Bonanza aircraft, an F-33A, for example. And I did a video on this a while back because I actually complied with this AD and I terminated it. It was a recurring AD. And if I remember right, the time frame was every 3,000 hours. You had to remove the rudder, you had to remove the rudder hinges, you had to clean the area, you had to do a fluorescent or dye penetrant inspection on it, then you had to put it all back together and reinstall it. However, if you upgraded the hinges to the same hinges that are in the A36 Bonanza, or the 6-place Bonanza, which are bigger, which is exactly what I did in the video. If you upgrade to those beefier hinges, you can terminate the AD. Now, I still had to comply with the initial inspection by removing the old hinge, dye penetrant inspecting everything, then putting the upgraded hinges in, and then reinstalling the AD. Now, the AD still applies. It is still recurring. It just has been terminated by the action of replacing those hinges, if that makes sense. And then there's lots of ADs, like I said, that are single use. It might be something that says to install a placard on the dash that says pull carb heat in the pattern. I don't know, something, right? It's a one-time thing that, hey, you need to install this placard, you need to install this part, or you need to do, like the no smoking placard was one. Like you have to do something and it's just one time. So those are your three main different types. And what you're doing with a compliance check is auditing the records to make sure that those ADs have been complied with, and you're getting a list of the ones that still need to be complied with, at which point you will go and comply with it. Now, if I'm doing an annual inspection and I have an AD, like that rudder AD, that has 50 hours left on it. It has to get done every 5,000 hours, and it has 50 hours left on it. Well, guess what? I can still sign off the annual inspection as airworthy, but in 50 hours, somebody is going to have to deal with that AD. As far as that goes, the AD could have 5 hours left on it, 1 hour left on it. It doesn't matter. If it's not due for any period of time, I can still sign off the annual inspection, but when that AD is due, it must be done, if that makes sense. So now I would like to shift the conversation a little bit, which I realize I'm talking to myself to this camera. And you watching it, it feels like I'm talking to you, but I'm actually just talking to myself in this room. Anyways, broke the fourth wall there for a second. Doesn't matter. So now it comes time for you to actually write up your compliance with the AD. And there is some leeway here. There's some conversation depending on what FAA inspector you talk to, how you should write it up. So I'm going to tell you how I've been told to write it up and how I like to do it. Now, I've seen logbook entries that say, complied with all ADs through this date. That's a very bold statement because by wording it that way, you're saying that you actually complied with everything and you actually did whatever the AD tells you to do, which you might not have done, which you probably didn't do, actually. So the better way to write it up would be to check compliance of ADs through this date, see attached AD log. And like I'll attach an actual book of the AD compliance check that has every single AD written out, right? And in there it'll have the effective date of the AD, what the compliance is, what was done, was it previously complied with, did I comply with it by an inspection, whatever it may be. But let's say, for the sake of your annual inspection, that you actually comply with an AD, like that Cessna seat rail inspection, or like that Bonanza rudder that I was talking about. It's not just enough to say that I complied with this AD number, and then I would also put, and this is what I've been told by an FAA inspector, the effective date of the AD. So for example, AD 2011-10-09, effective date, and then whatever that date is. I don't know off the top of my head, right? And then I'm gonna put what I did to comply with that AD. So for example, I might put comply with paragraph G 1 through 6 of the AD. And if you actually open the AD up and went to that paragraph, and that's not a real paragraph in the AD, I'm just coming up with something for the sake of the video, but there is something in there, right? So I'm saying that I complied with that paragraph and the steps in those paragraphs. So if you actually start reading it and it says to comply with an AD by a visual inspection, by checking with a go, no-go gauge, by checking whatever it may be, and it details all those things in the AD, I'm saying I complied with that portion of the AD. Now in the case of the Bonanza rudder AD, I also added a second part that said replaced rudder hinges with upgraded hinges, part number, and I gave the part number of the hinges that I put in there. In accordance with this paragraph of the AD, this AD may now be considered terminated. It is no longer recurring. And I wrote that in my logbook entry when I did that AD, because like I said, it is still recurring, and if you open up the records for that aircraft, you might see that AD number and see that it's a recurring AD and that rudder has to come off for a dye penetrant inspection, and you're going to say, oh, I need to do that. But when you dig deeper, you see that the last mechanic, in that case it would be me, the last mechanic upgraded those hinges and that recurring AD has now been terminated. So how you write up your ADs in your logbook, the more information you can put in there to tell people exactly what you did, what paragraph of the AD you complied with, and so on, is really going to be beneficial. Because without getting too far off in the minutia of an AD, there might be a lot of sub-paragraphs of what you might need to do based on how many hours, cycles, landings, pressurizations, whatever it may be, have gone through, the aircraft has gone through on that AD. So there might be several different types of compliance or several different ways to comply with the AD, and you need to be specific in your logbook entry about what you did to comply with it at the time you complied with it, so that the next person knows. So there you go, everybody. That is going to do it all for this video. I've got about 8% left on my battery for the camera, so make sure you go down on the shopping shelf right below this video and buy yourself a shirt, a coffee mug, or a sticker. Make sure you leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe. Give us your thoughts if you took your O&P, if you've tested on it. Put down below what you might have had to do for your O&P for those who are still waiting to test. As always, thank you so much for watching. Go build something. and be easy. Oh, okay, last thing. Look at this cool little turbofan one of my coworkers bought. It's actually a split spool like it's supposed to be, but nice little 3D printed thing. It was like $175. He bought it for turbine engines. Love that.